Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. I'm Maria Casillas, joined here by my incredible co-host, Cody Sizemore. And today we're going to talk to you about how to coach our clients through the whole process of what we like to call putting food on the table. We always talk about how words matter. And so we like to, rather than just say, what's your grocery budget? We actually play along with some words and say, we talk about putting food on the table. Cody, I don't know about you, but here at New Money Habits, we actually have that as more of a top line item for people because we found through coaching so many people that oftentimes they would make sure that they paid all of their bills. They would make sure that, Visa got its bite and everybody else got their taste. And then at the end of that, they'd say, what do we have left over for food? And that's how they would feed their family. And just in the interest of a mindset shift, if I can get that out right, we just started saying, you know what? How about we put food on the table first, and then you can worry about the rest of that. So without any further ado, Cody, I'm going to welcome you into the conversation and say, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great. I'm a
Good.
little hungry, you know,
I love it.
so
So I saw you kind of nodding through as I was throwing that out there today. What are you seeing with your clients? Is that something that you're also seeing a pattern of where they're putting everything else first and then food last?
yeah, I mean, a little bit. I wouldn't say that it's like across the board by any means, but I do think that like people who have maybe a little bit more tighter situations tend to do that, or they feel like they have tighter situations and they do that,
Mm,
right? So
mm-hmm.
um yeah, there's a lot of people that I've talked to that have just said like, hey, like I've been putting groceries on my credit card kind of thing. And we can maybe go into this a little bit deeper. Yeah, I don't know exactly the direction that we're going with this, but I think that a big reason as to why people might operate that way is because it's a fear-based thing. Like they'd rather have a hard time feeding themselves or their family than have someone call them angrily and say, "Hey, pay your bill." Which
Mm,
to
mhm,
me sounds wild. Um,
mhm.
but that's the case, I think, with a lot of people.
Yeah, I do think that that is partly why people kind of have that happening. I think also there's just not a lot of real direction around how much are you supposed to spend. It's
Yeah,
not like you're
yeah,
getting an insurance bill that is very consistent every single month. You
right.
have to go out and you have to buy groceries, and you have to realize that those prices fluctuate from time to time. I mean, time to time, meaning like every single day, because, certain things are on sale and certain things are not. And if you have a list of these staples that you want, sometimes you just don't know what that's going to cost. And so I think that there's just a lot of unknown around it as well. And I think when people come to us, they're really looking for some of that direction and almost permission to spend money on food.
Mm,
I think so many times we get stuck in this I can't spend anything mentality, I mean, like there's like a
yeah,
whole no spend challenge going on in certain places, and it's just like, well, you got to spend something. I mean, I understand wanting to pull back on things, but that sort of challenge actually drives me a little bit crazy because of the seed that it plants in our heads about, not wanting and willing to spend anything on anything. And so I think that that's partly also why people sort of just like, oh, well, I'll just go and get a few things. I've got some stuff in my pantry. I've got some stuff in my freezer, and I'll just make things work.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. And I think that the big thing that I agree with that is that they don't have a plan around their groceries.
Mhm.
Like I think a lot of people approach grocery shopping as like, well, it's my food. Like it's a necessity, right? So it is what it is.
Mhm.
Like there's no plan around it. There's no, guardrails around it. There's no strategy around it because it's an essential part of life. So, they kind of take that approach of like, well, groceries are just so expensive now. And that's just where they
Right.
land. I can't tell
Yep.
you how many times I've heard that phrase. Groceries are so expensive now. Groceries are so expensive now. It's like, yeah, like they're expensive, but I see people spend a decent amount that's like healthy and they're still able to feed their family. They're still able to enjoy the food that they're buying. It's not like they're just buying the scraps.
Yeah.
But they're able to do that because they have some form of strategy or plan around it.
Yep, I agree. I think that that gives permission for us
Hmm.
to be able to spend the money, and then they can do that in a healthy manner, in an abundance manner, without feeling guilty around that.
Yeah.
It's funny you mention that because that's actually one of the things that at New Money Habits we decided, you know what, people are really needing this, and so let's give them a formula so they can just sort of kind of have something to go by. And when we first started out, this was probably, well, I don't know, probably 5, 6 years ago. Our formula, if you will, was like $150 to $200 per person per month.
Mm.
And then as things went up, we kind of shifted that, and because you got to go with what with what's going on. But we shifted that to 200 to 250 per month per person in your
Okay.
family. And for
Huh.
us, that
That's interesting.
that includes, I mean, that didn't even include like dining out. Uh, but I will say that in our family, we kind of also put that money aside completely separate. And so with saying that, I mean, we used to do the cash system.
Hmm.
That didn't work super well for us anymore. But what did work well for us was having that grocery slash dining out budget separate. And
Yes.
so we created a completely different account.
Yep.
It's a cashback debit account so that we could still get some cash
Wow.
back on it, which is great. And it's a different card, so we don't have envelopes, but it is a different debit card. And every time we go to the grocery store, every time we go to dine out, that is the card that we use. And every time my husband gets paid, that amount of money, a specific amount, which definitely falls within this formula, gets automatically deposited into that account. And then the rest goes into our regular accounts. And so that just kind of helps to keep things separate for us as well. And I have found as a coach that that is one of the most powerful tools that my clients have absolutely loved.
Hmm. Uh, so it's pretty crazy. Because a lot of just so the listeners know, I had no idea that that Maria operated this way. I had no idea that she kind of taught her clients this way either. Um, Before recording this episode, so I'm listening to you say all this, and I'm like, wow, we actually do things very similarly. Um, it's slightly different, but very similar in the sense that, like, I have found that a good formula for,
Mhm.
how much a family should be spending is instead of 200 to 250 per head per month, I do 250 to 300 per head per
Mm.
month. And I think that like that amount for me, I have found clients be very comfortable, but I think that like just that little extra $50, it allows room for people who either really take their health seriously, maybe they have some like dietary restrictions where they can only buy certain types of foods. It also allows them to feel like, hey, like we can buy some name brand stuff. Like it doesn't all have to be off brand. Obviously, we can encourage off brand, um, but it doesn't put them in a pigeonhole to where they have to feel like they need to. Uh, and I also think that like if there's one thing that I've learned that really, really, really bothers people that they can't seem to stay within budget on, it is their groceries. Like
Mhm.
people get frustrated with maybe not staying within their fun money budget, but they know that that's on them kind of thing. Whereas with the groceries, if they feel like they're consistently going over, $200 a month, $300 a month, $500 a month, and they're just consistently going over it, it really wears on them because there's a mix of like, well, part of this is on me because of the things that I'm buying and, you know, just being more aware of like waste at home and stuff like that. But then there's another part of it that like I can't control. And it's one of those things that like it's not like I'm like wanting to buy groceries. I need to
Mm-hmm.
buy groceries. Whereas with
Mm-hmm.
fun money, I want to do those things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I found that like just that little bit of extra money, not to say that your amount is wrong, but just on my end, that little bit of extra money creates a little bit more space, and it allows them to feel like they actually can stay within that budget more consistently, and they feel good about it overall.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I noticed that was very similar. But then also piggybacking off of the whole account specifically for the groceries. Yeah, usually I would when I'm going through people's like money audits, I always ask them, I'm like, do you usually go in store to buy groceries or do you usually do online via pickup or delivery? And whatever that answer is usually what I base off my suggestion to help people with organizing their grocery money. So if they go in person, I'm like, yeah, you should definitely try cash, see how it goes, because we all know the effects of cash, right? Um, but then if they're doing online or they're doing pickup or something like that, it doesn't make sense to do cash, you know?
Yeah.
So in that scenario, I tell them like, listen, let's open up a new account with a debit card specifically for that one account and have it be for only groceries, right? And we do the same thing for fun money as well. You know, if they're people who do a lot of in-person spending, I'll do cash. If they're a person who does a
Mm-hmm.
lot of online spending, we'll do the separate account kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a lot of parallels between the way that you handle things and the way that I kind of handle things with our clients where I'm putting food on the table.
Yeah, that's really cool. I would like to ask you, just for clarification, does your formula include dining out money, or is that completely for groceries and then any dining out goes extra?
Yeah, no, I separate dining out. I think that that's more fun money. So it would be
Okay.
solely just the groceries. But the groceries do include things like toiletries, cleaning products, stuff like that.
Okay. So that might be one of the other differences as well, is that we actually have that as a separate line item.
Mm,
And so that might be
mhm,
where that $50 difference is.
mhm.
I think it's really interesting to see the number as it is because, you and I are talking about, the difference of $50, but
For a
I'll
family of
bet there
6, that's
are,
a big number, though.
what's that?
For a family of 6, that's a big difference, though.
100%, and that's what I was just gonna say. Not only that, but that I'm sure we've got some listeners right now who are floored that we would even say 200. Let's just go to the low end, $200 per
Sure,
person
sure.
per month, because a family of 6, that immediately puts you at $1,200 a month,
Mhm.
and I remember for myself when we were, doing the whole that snowball thing and we were just scorched earth. I think we were doing 200 to $250 per month, and we were a family of 4. So that wasn't per person per month, that was per month for the family of 4. So
But
that
also,
ended up
when
being
was
a
that?
I was just gonna say, but in a second, that ended up being about $50 per person per month.
Mhm.
And that was 10 to 15 years, I think 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, I totally know that, yes, that was but even then, that was very low because I remember when my husband got laid off and, he had some severance money and then that lasted for, I don't know, I think it was like 4 week severance or whatever. And then he had not gotten a job. And so we applied for, like over here, it's called, I don't even know. I think it's called WIC or something like that.
Mhm.
But we applied for food assistance for the kids, and I remember we only had it given to us for 1 month. It was actually given to us for 2, but I'll tell you why in a second. So I get it this 1 month, and they gave us I want to say it was either 650 or $700. And my jaw hit the floor, Cody, and I was like, "Oh, why do you think we need this much money?"
Mm.
Like, I've been figuring out how to do this on $200 a month for,
Yeah.
for however many months or years, and like, and this is how much you want to give me. And I was actually shocked. I couldn't believe that that was how much that somebody thought that this family of four needed. And then because of that, I went and bought like different meats, that I had not purchased before, and I
Hmm.
put them into the freezer and stuff. And I used up the entire $600 or 650 or whatever it was by the end of the month because I had believed that I had to. Because if they thought I needed that, then of course I would have to use it. And then my husband praise God, he got hired, I think on January 27th or 28th.
Hmm.
And then on the 29th, they gave us another, like the next month's stuff. Oh, there's our planes in the background. Sorry. They gave us our next month's stipend, if you will. And I called them. I'm like, how do I give this back to you? And they said, ma'am, you're not allowed to give it back to us. You have to have. I said, but my husband has a job. We don't need this anymore. And they're like, no, once it's on the thing, that's like, we can't take it back. And so I made that
I'm sure they were
$600 stretch.
surprised by that.
Oh, they were. They were a little bit surprised. And so I'm like, well, since I've got you on the phone, do I have to use this month? And they're like, no. They just thought I had the dumbest questions. But I was just so used to, like month to month, you use what you need, and that was it. So anyway, they told me I did not need to use it in that month, that it would stay on there. I wouldn't get anything more, but it would stay on there indefinitely. And so we stretched that for about 3 or 4 more months because we had some meat in the freezer from the first month that I didn't need it all. And then we, were able to go back to our $200 per month budget. So anyway, that is just one of those. I look back and think, man, I mean, when you have to do something, you figure it out. I do believe that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, feeding your family should not be the thing that you put on the back burner if indeed there are other things that can move around. And so I'm imagining that you not only have this formula, but you also help your clients to put that closer to the top of the line rather than the bottom. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 100%. Hmm.
Yeah, this is definitely one of our priorities as well. So very good. Well, I appreciate you having this conversation with me,
There is
Cody. I
one
think
more
it's
thing.
one of oh yeah,
One more thing I want to throw out there.
sure.
Uh, so one thing that I have also seen sometimes is that, and these are for the people who either A, have a little bit more of a tighter situation, or B, they're just like super, super gung ho around just meeting their goals kind of thing.
Mhm.
And that could
Mhm.
be, their goals with paying off their debt, with their savings. But it could also just be, hey, like meeting our goals with staying within our grocery budget kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, there's been a few times where either one of those situations have happened, and they're like, hey, we got 2 weeks left of the month, and we've already spent a decent amount in groceries. We think that we're probably going to need to do another grocery haul, but if we do that before the end of the month, that will put us over our grocery budget. What are some ideas to help us stay within that? Right. So I actually am going to take a play out of the good old playbook of Papa Sizemore, my dad. So when I was growing up, we used to have these nights that he would call experiment nights. Experiment nights. And basically, what they were is we would just raid the pantry of it, because everybody has these items in their pantry that have been sitting there for a long time. They haven't gone bad, but we just haven't used them. We bought them literally months ago, maybe even like a
Mhm.
year ago. We bought
Mhm.
them, and they've just been sitting there, right? So we raid the pantry and we grab a bunch of things, and then, we take a few things from the fridge, and we just put it all together and just see what happens, see how it all kind of turns out. Um, we used to do that when I was growing up, and my dad would involve me and my sisters. It wouldn't just be like, "Hey, it's an experiment night. Here's the experiment. Hope you like it. Maybe." It was like, "Hey, kids, what do you think we should make?" here's the
Mhm.
options. Like if we
Yeah.
take this thing together and we put that thing together, let's see how it all goes, right? And for me as a kid growing up, that was actually a lot of fun to be involved in like the dinner and being able to choose like, hey, well, what if we put this and this together? I think that would be good. And actually, some of my favorite dishes that my dad ever made
Hmm.
was from the experiment,
Experiment night.
which
Yeah.
was crazy. Um, so as a kid, I thought it was a fun thing. I thought it was a cool thing, and I never thought anything more of it. Now that I'm an adult, I actually know that he did that because we literally just couldn't really afford to buy very much more in groceries, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I have suggested that with some of my clients to do an experiment night to involve their kids, to have some fun with it. And the response that I've gotten from it, at least from from my clients, is that it's actually fun and that,
Yeah.
they make it work and they come in at or under budget by the end of the month. And that's just a little extra thing of like, hey, what else can we do aside from just playing math with our numbers? But how else can we get a little bit more creative when we need that little extra pinch towards the end?
Amen. Yeah, that's great. I could totally see that becoming like a contest, like
It is.
everybody gets to make their own and then you guys could all judge and and have, a little prize for the person who does the best one. That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
I also love that you finished off by saying that you got a little bit more creative
Hmm.
when you're in a pinch because I really believe that that is when our creativity is at its best.
Hmm.
When you are sort of up against a wall and you've got a little bit, you've got to figure out how to make that work, and that is one of the things. It's that I don't even know what the law is called, but it's the one where, the toothpaste law.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not called the toothpaste law, those of you who are listening, but look it up, and it is called something. But it's that whole idea where if you have a whole tube of toothpaste, you typically will use that, a nice long ribbon when you put it on your toothbrush.
Yep.
But if you are at the end of that little bit and you are trying to get every tiny bit out, you will brush your teeth with the tiniest bit of toothpaste ever.
Yep.
And it just goes to show that it's the same concept. We use what we have available to us. And when we don't have as much available, we're going to use that, but we get very creative in how we're going to make that stretch. And so I think that if we can in any way get our clients to a spot where it's almost like a forced creativity, one might think that that's an oxymoron, but where they are limited to whatever they have in front of them, then you get fun and you get creative. And I really appreciate, Cody, that you said some of your favorite meals came from that because
They really did.
those meals never would have been created
Hmm.
out of an abundance of food because that no one would have thought to put those things together. But when there was that scarcity of food, you think, oh, let's try pairing these two things. And you realize, oh, that was actually pretty tasty.
Hmm. Hmm.
Nice. Well done. Thank you
Yeah.
for stopping me and inserting that. I just want to say I appreciate you having this conversation with me. I think that sometimes we get so wrapped up in some of the business side of things with our coaches that we forget to talk about some of the things that our clients actually are going through. And so
Sure.
we'll try to do this a little bit more often and maybe once a month or so and just throw it out there.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Not a problem.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. We look forward to seeing you next week for another episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast. See you then.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching.